introduce our presenter today. So today we are having Dr. Ushe Kufakurinani. Is a Wellcome Trust Research Fellow at the University of Warwick. He has produced a monograph on white women in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe from 1890 to 1980, and a number of articles as well as book chapter. So today's presentation is titled, Do fake sex enhancers exist? Discussing efficacy of sex tonics in Harare's Avenue Street. So over to you, Dr. Ushe.
Yes, thank you. Just a minor correction. I've just moved to King's College, London. So, thank you, Javlan, for that introduction. And thank you, colleagues, for having me here to share some of my findings of close to a year's, research, during the times of COVID-19 and the lockdown, where fieldwork itself has not been that easy. Allow me to perhaps begin quickly with a reference to a recent development some few days ago, where there was a tweet from the Zimbabwe Republic Police, which was in three parts, and they were giving an update on a drug bust that had just done around the avenues, 5 Avenues Shopping Center. And while that itself is interesting, because as one of the respondents said, it got to inform the public about the products that were out there. It became an informative thing, a piece to tell people what is out there and what is available. But the other things that were fascinating about the response was, the fact that it was a very old trade taking place here, and the police were being accused of being hypocritical. One of the questions that was being raised was, why now? This has been taking place since. I mean, in any case, this is happening across a police-based station. Are they not just being hypocritical? And there were also, outbursts at the police going after, these traders, when the country is full of what they call real criminals. I found this very fascinating, and I think it's definitely relevant for my other paper, which is on policing sex tonics. But for this specific study, I'm less concerned with the policing aspect itself and fascinated by discourses around efficacy. Let me give some kind of context and background. When I got into the field, before getting to the field, I was quite convinced that there was, unabated, existence of sex tonics that were fake in the streets. I mean, this was me before reading around fake talk, fake drugs, and so forth, and the debates around that, and I associated the illicit species with fake, which is not uncommon. When you do a lot of literature reading, you discover that this is very common to associate an illicit space or illicit, with illicit with fake substances. And after the ban over the counter sex enhancers in 2013, and then an economic crisis, the streets in the avenues became a haven of informality. It's not just the sale of drugs. There is also the sale of different wares, from phone chargers to even trading sex itself, the sale of fruits, the sale of even cooked food. So it's a haven of informality, if you want. And MCAS, which is a regulated board for drugs in Zimbabwe, is actually established by Act of Parliament. It was responsible for banning the sale of over-the-counter sex tonics. In fact, there were a number of pharmacies that were actually shut down on these grounds. And I spent about 6 or so months, around these streets, Baines, 5 Avenue, and so forth, and sort of worked with a number of traders. And at the last opportunity, what I did was to actually ask if there were fake sextonics in the streets. It's a question that I couldn't ask on day one, but after getting acquainted with the guys, I was so determined to ask this question, and it was informed by this assumption, as I indicated, that a fake product should necessarily claim to do one thing and then do the other, or do nothing at all. But over time, and we can talk about this in Q&A, I found this to be a very simplistic notion. And this is perhaps for someone who do, it's a sketch map of where you find these guys dotted. The aesthetics there in blue are the places where you have these guys who are selling, sort of crowded and doing their sale. And I spent about 6 months, like I mentioned, included, spending time with traders. And though I felt, though the avenues were like five avenues, those streets were like my primary research site. Over time, I discovered that in essence, my research site was very elastic. I mean, everyone went, be it fixing a car in Kagoy, which is like another end of town. They became very interesting sites of information around sextonics. And sextonics in Eben are actually an instructive site. And being illicit and occupying an informal space, the site itself is so many multiple conflicts and multiple negotiations that are taking place. The drug busts, some are real, some are choreographed. And the choreographed ones are interesting because they take various forms. You have people claiming to be police and doing some drug busts, and in some occasions being busted back, so to speak. But you also have real police that actually have an unsanctioned bust. And of course, there's constant state surveillance. So the illicit nature of the trade meant that this was a space that was difficult to access. So it was really a difficult space to navigate. And until I got one Mishek, and this is not a real name, was one of my two main informants who got to sort of bring me into the space and get me trusted by his fellow colleagues. It is from there that I began to find some welcoming responses from his fellow colleagues. But trust here was a very important element in getting this search starting. And as most of you would know, it's not also easy to get to ask people around, especially clients, male clients, about sex and sexuality. Are they using sextonics? Why are they using sextonics and so forth? Because this subject is on the sensitive side. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, complicated the research itself. I had to come up with ways to sort of get information. For example, I tried what we call something akin to the general method, where I had one of my informants, updating me on WhatsApp about the day's events for about 30 days. And they were very useful, especially in giving me more information around, policing. The officials themselves, the police and MCAs, have not been easy to access, but I still believe over time I'll be able to access them. Now, in terms of trying to explain the emergence or the rise or what is sustaining trade in sextonics, there are at least three issues that have been brought to my attention. The first has to do with the deteriorating economic crisis, and what this has done is to trigger or at least sustain an informal economy. It has sort of sponsored and financed or sponsored the emergence of informality because there's huge unemployment, the economy is in crisis, and so on and so forth. And this story, most of us are familiar with it. Then the second one is to do with a masculinity in crisis, and it's related to the economy itself. Zimbabwe being a patriarchal society with masculinities that are constructed around men's ability to provide for families and partners. And this point has been raised by many of my informants. I mean, there's a tweet they were saying, which is saying engine is not powered because of stress, and this was responding to a post about the rise that was showing concern about the rise of in the uptake of sextonics by the young generations, and that response is saying engine has not power, meaning people are not able to perform in bed because they're stressed, and this stress has been associated with a bad economy and so forth and so forth, which has led to the failure of breadwinners to actually provide, and that has been linked to what I'm calling a masculinity and crisis, particularly a masculinity associated with provision. But another argument that has come in is then to say, because of the loss of that masculinity associated with provision, men have tried to compensate it with another form of masculinity, which is a masculinity associated with sexual prowess. If you're good in bed, you are a man, so to speak. And so there's also been this argument to say there's stress on the one end, all right, and people want to are performing poorly because of stress. But there's also the other end, the failure to provide and to compensate that masculinity. Another form of masculinity has actually taken over, which is ability to perform in bed, sexual prowess, and this is all culminated in the rise of the uptake or the demand for sextonics, and of course the
It seems Dr. Kufa, are you there? It seems like we lost our speaker. Let's just wait for a few minutes as you try to reconnect.
Just got a message from Dr. Ushe that his internet has gone off. So can we be kindly patient and just try and give him a few more minutes? He's now trying to transfer from the laptop to try and use his phone. Apologies, sincere apologies for this inconvenience. Okay, Dr. Kufa has kindly asked for us to wait more time, for us to be patient. In the meantime, I think we can quickly go and grab a cup of coffee or quickly Google what a sex tonic is so that we can have more questions for him when he comes back online. Thank you once again for your patience and your attendance. Pleasant afternoon to everybody once again. Would like to apologize for the interruption. There seems to be serious problems with Dr. Ushe's internet provider. His internet has gone off and he's been trying to reconnect, but it seems to be failing. So in the sake of time and also not wasting yours, he's requested that we postpone this meeting. Either we're going to do a pre-recorded clip and then we share it on the different platforms and circulate it with you guys, or we reconvene at another day that suits him best. But sincere apologies for the inconvenience, and thank you very much for your support and attendance in today's seminar. Please do join us the next time when we have another seminar. Thank you very much, and apologies once again.